The Heathen Hearth channel has been on YouTube for 1 year. Yeah! Join me for a recap of the year, a health update, and a little bit on what might come in the future. Hail, and welcome to Heathen Hearth, the show where we make recipes inspired by the historic and ethnographic imagination. We also talk about some of the health impacts of historical diets, specifically the Nordic Way Diet, and that's a diet I'm on. If you're not familiar with that diet, please take a look at the link I'm going to either put up on the screen or down in the description. Essentially, the Nordic Way Diet is eating a lot like the Scandinavians and in the more traditional manner of the Scandinavians. It's backed by a lot of nutritional research. It's about eating more protein, whole grains, fruits and vegetables, and especially berries. So I'm going to talk a little bit about what I've been doing there. The reason I'm on that diet is for health reasons, mainly, as well as interest. But what I want to do is make myself feel better. I've been sick for about 2.5 years with something that is probably Lyme disease, and I've been trying to use diet to help myself feel better. I had committed myself to monthly updates. However, I only got 2 of those done. I did January and February of last year. As you can tell, there's been a lot of time in between those 2 periods. It is now October, and it is the 1-year anniversary of the channel, which is amazing and phenomenal. I just haven't had the time to do an update. And one of the reasons is that I am very busy during the summers. I volunteer, I help run a campground, I run pagan events. But also during that time period, since I was getting better, I was starting to return back to work for my regular paid job. And so I was doing that and adding a few days a week, etc. And so I wasn't tracking my calories. I wasn't tracking any of those types of things. So I don't know how many days I did the Nordic Way Diet over those months. And it wasn't a lot, as you'll see in a little while. There were a few notable food events that happened during the summer. First was the Well and Tree Gathering, where I helped facilitate a pit cooking. Again, I do this each year. It's a traditional style of cooking in a lot of different cultures. I also did a workshop at the Three Rivers Festival, which is a Druid festival. I had the bloat that we did at the Heathen Horn Gathering for Skadi. Then there was the Kaleidoscope Gathering, which took up a lot of time, and I helped plan some of the food that went on there at Food Services. And near the end of the year, unfortunately, one of my good friends died, Gypsy Birch, and that was something that I also did a special food preparation for, because food is part of both living and life, but also the passing of those lives as well. In the last year, I lost 18 pounds, which is pretty good, but you'll notice that I've actually gained weight since the springtime. I'm now 229.5 pounds. What I'm hoping for, just sort of in my mind, when I weigh myself on the scale, is what I want to get back to is under 100 kilograms. And eventually my goal would, of course, be to get to my good BMI, which is just around 200 pounds. So, I think one of the reasons that I went up in weight was that I was going back and forth to Ravensnoll. It was hard to control my diet. I wasn't cooking for myself a lot. Other people were cooking for me. I couldn't stay to the whole grains. And to be frank, I was just busy, wiped out, and tired with increasing my schedule of work. I was just exhausted. So I didn't really follow the diet all that well. You'll see that at the start of the year, in last December, I was 227 pounds, and now I'm 229.5. My BMI has also improved a little, and my blood pressure is around the same. It's it's improved a bit, but it's not amazing. My mental health has improved quite a lot, and that has happened with the reduction of my physical symptoms. So I have those physical symptoms I described in the other episode. Those have been decreasing, especially the hives very recently. The arthritic symptoms have been getting a little bit worse, but I found that the hives and the exhaustion have been reduced a little bit. So as a result, my cognitive impairments and so on have reduced as well, which is the most important thing to me. This health journey has been baby steps, 2.5 years. I don't, I only have diagnoses of my symptoms from the regular medical system just because of the way that they test and treat Lyme disease. It's been a long journey, and I've had to learn to live with the frustration of it. You can see here in a few of the pictures how examples of some of the worst hives I get. How they can come up inside my joints and cause swelling and inflammation, and also how they can pop out on my skin and even raise blood blisters. I'm looking into different alternative ways of managing it. I've recently started taking herbal supplements, the Brunner protocol. No, it does not involve putting lettuce on your feet.
Heathen Hearth now has 1,446 subscribers. That is incredible. That's like the size of a small town. I took this picture up on the screen a little while ago. You can see how long I've been working on this video. When it was 1111. I love that. It was just, I just looked up at the right time. I did the same thing at 666. I don't know what it is about looking at the app at the right time. Anyways, I'm just amazed that so many people like the channel and like the content. I'm just so glad. And I'm glad there's people like me out there because I do this because I'm excited in what I'm doing as well. And what I really want to be able to do is since there's such cool people subscribed to this channel, I'd like to interact a little bit more with you. Get ideas maybe for future episodes, talk a little bit more in the comments, and just generally chat about food. That'd be really cool. So, if you're watching, feel free to drop a comment. Maybe we can chat in the comment area. Another thing that I've started doing too is calling the fans of this show Hearthsters. Now, I was just trying to think of a good audience name rather than audience. But do you think the Hearthster is a good name? Is it too geeky? Is it stupid, silly? Do you think there's an alternative name that would be better for people who are fans of this YouTube channel? If you do, then I'd love to hear from you in the comments. This is the YouTube analytics page. It's something that us creators get to see. And it's basically your stats. So in the last year, I had 136,000 minutes of watch time. So that means people watch the channel for 2,267 hours. That is absolutely incredible. You can see I had a flurry of episodes in the fall when I first started my channel. And then in the spring, and then in the summer, you can see that I started to have a lot more watch time. And that's because the YouTube algorithm started to serve my content to people who were not subscribers of the show. As you note, there hasn't been that much content lately, later in the summer. You can see that also too in the watch time on my channel. And that's just because I was so busy and also exhausted. I had the summer festival season with Ravensknoll, and I was also feeling a bit healthier, so I was getting back to work. Now, hopefully there'll be an increase in the amount of episodes I'm going to be able to get out this winter. I'm hoping for maybe an episode once every 2 weeks. But you can really see, like, in a year, that's an amazing growth for a channel. I'm really, really happy. And please, let's grow this channel some more and get more people who are interested in historical cooking together. These are my top videos. The very most popular video on the channel is Thor's Scrapple. It's got a great name, so of course it is. But I was a little surprised to see the Viking Diet was really popular as well. I thought it would be another cooking video. The third most popular video is Viking meatballs. Now, there was a bit of controversy over this because of how I named it. Meatballs are more than likely a dish that emerged in the Mediterranean region and then made their way into Europe. And that's how it at least appears in cookbooks. But of course, forced meat is something that many different cultures had. You don't need to make it with dyes. You can make it with just two knives. And it is possible that it was around the Viking Age, but it may not have been. But it definitely is a Scandinavian dish. Now, the fourth most popular recipe I have is a decolonize your diet recipe, and I don't have many of those yet. I think I might try to see if I can do a few more of those in the winter. And the fifth most popular was Roman brown sauce. I'm not really too much into ancient classical cooking, but I do have one or two more ideas up my sleeve, and we'll see if those ever get made. Now, of the top recipes, the top three are not Instant Pot recipes. The next ones down are. So I had originally thought that I was going to try to do almost everything in the Instant Pot, but what it appears on this channel is the audience is not really into Instant Pots, they're into historical cooking. So I'm not going to try necessarily to make Instant Pot meals, just I'm going to use an Instant Pot when I feel it's relevant to being a faster cooking method. I just like it. So that's interesting to note.
Now, I thought that most of the people watching my channel would be from Canada. And in fact, there are quite a few people from Canada watching, and there's been about 2,000 views on my channel from Canada. However, there has been much more from the United States. About half of my views, 48% of my views, are from the US, and only 7.5 are from Canada. I have a few viewers in the UK, the Netherlands, Australia, Switzerland, France, Brazil, Sweden, Germany, India. And I get a few hits from other places like Denmark. I think they may be my relatives. I'm not exactly sure, but that's really international. And it was a bit less international than I thought. My first few episodes, I was translating a ton of them. I was translating them into Chinese, Japanese, that kind of thing. I've noticed that pretty well. No one watches my videos in any languages except for English, French, and Spanish, and almost no one watches in French, which is interesting considering this is Canada. I guess people, if they're finding this channel, are bilingual. So, what does the future hold? That's a question. What I'm hoping to do is maybe get episodes out once every 2 weeks. I was being overly optimistic, I think, to try to do one once a week. I'm going to try to get them out now once every 2 weeks. I haven't been putting them out on a very consistent basis lately just because I try to upload it as soon as I have it ready. I do like the idea of Thursdays, and I'm going to try to get back on a regular schedule. I think, though, that that'll come when I have a backlog of videos. Right now, I don't. I'm currently editing the pit cooking video, and that's really the last one I've got. So I'm going to be trying to build up a bit of a collection, and then that way they can come out on a more regular basis. I would love to make something with henbane, maybe henbane beer. Now, henbane is a psychoactive herb. Yes, psychoactive, but it is legal, although it can be dangerous. You have to know what you're doing. And because you have to know what you're doing, I would like to do a collaboration with some friends of mine from the Upper Ottawa Valley. They have a business called Fern and Fungi. So it's about herbalism and herbal preparations, but also about going out into nature and collecting wild plants, specifically fungi for eating. They do education in that area as well. So that would be really cool if I can do that or line it up. Another thing that I'm still doing is my collaboration with Alehorn. You can see in a video clip where I do an unboxing of some of their stuff. I'll put it down in the description or on the screen. Now, I'm going to be still doing a video in which I make something that goes in the Alehorns. So whenever I'm going to be doing a drinks episode, what I'm going to also be doing is using the Alehorn products for the drinking, just because they're so cool. Like there's this awesome tankard and there's a drinking horn too. So I still have to do that in the next year. Another thing I'm thinking about doing is maybe putting together a Patreon. This is a lot of effort and it's fun, like putting together videos and learning and getting better at this and sharing is a lot of fun. But what I'd like to be able to do is have even more interaction. And also a little bit more support from you to know that you care about what's going on rather than just clicking the screen. Maybe you could support the channel with just $1 or $2 an episode, and that would really go a long way to show me that the investment in time, money, and energy is worthwhile here. So I'm planning on looking at seeing if I can do that, something simple. I might be doing special content for the Patreon. Specifically, what I want to do is looking at cookbooks and reviewing them, and then providing maybe one recipe excerpted from them so you can take a look at it. I find quite often you don't really get that from an Amazon review. And also too, in the area of historical cooking, you sometimes need someone to curate interesting stuff. I've got a huge cookbook collection, so I can always go back to older stuff too, not just new things. So tell me what you think about that, what you want to see out of a Patreon social account. Just comment below, or if you don't think it's appropriate, just send me a private email. Now, of course, cannabis was legalized in Canada October 17th, 2018. There's no sales of edible products yet allowed, but one of the things that is allowed, of course, is to make your own edibles. And I have a good friend of mine who runs Can Apothecary, Winter Owl, and he's an awesome guy because his main focus has been to serve the veteran population in Canada. He's a veteran himself. And cannabis is used for some of the both the physical and the mental injuries that soldiers experience in battle and in training. And so he is a really awesome guy, and he's a great cook. And he actually wrote a cookbook called Medical Edibles. It's up on the screen. It's going to be in the description. Follow the link, buy it. It's a nice little small book. One of the interesting things about it that it goes into that's really important is how to calculate dosages. And this is the main area where people get tripped up when they're doing cannabis cooking. At the Well and Tree gathering, as I mentioned, we do some pit cooking. And up here on the screen is an example of it. No, it kind of looks like we're burying a dead body, or unburying one, I guess, but we're absolutely not. Of course, this is at Ravens Knoll. And we dig a big giant pit and cook a ton of food. You can see there, actually, my friend Gypsy, who passed this year. He was someone who really loved doing this and helping out, and they're really good memories. There's huge baskets there of food, and you can easily feed hundreds of people. It's a lot of work, but if there's a large number of people you have to feed, it's a really, really good way to do it. I'm going to go in detail on how to do this in an episode, so I'm not going to talk too much about it now, but you can see all the delicious food there. It's fabulous. Comes out with this wonderful steamed smoky flavor. It's incredible. At the Three Rivers Festival, I made 3 different kinds of bread. I made einkorn bread in the embers of a fire, and this was inspired by Otzi the Iceman. It's a Neolithic dish. I also made a parched barley travel bread, and that was inspired by the Proto-Indo-European Yamnaya culture. And then another one I made were oat farls using sprouted oats, and that was inspired by I always forget, Comware Funnelbeaker. Can't remember the culture's name, but it's the Proto-Celts. And in any case, in order to get all of that information, I have you have to go to the episode for ancient breads. I'll put that link in as well. Unfortunately, my camera died for part of the workshop. The workshop's really long, so what I did in the description of that workshop is put some timestamps in so you can skip around to the parts that interest you. Now, the highlight of the culinary year for me is, at least in the terms of heathen cooking, is the Heathen Horn gathering. And that's when we create an elaborate Dark Ages inspired feast that is inspired by the Norse peoples and the places that they visited and the cultural interactions that they had. In this first set of images, you can see me blessing the goats, and we have farmers who are in our community, and they live near Ravens Knoll, and they raise the bloat animals that we responsibly and respectfully raise in an organic manner, and then they are slaughtered and they are used for the feast and for the religious observances that take place at the Heathen Horn gathering. We also have a picture of the hand washing ceremony that takes place before a very large feast. It used to be done, of course, with basins of water, but nowadays we use wetted towels, and that tends to be really awesome during the middle of the summer. Hail and Horn Gathering happened to be a massive heat wave this year, and it was quite ironic because, of course, Scathy was being honored, and she's often associated with the winter and the cold. There's a picture of me with my Thunderstone Mjolnir. It's a specific type of hammer used for hallowing and blessing, and I'm blessing the food in this image. There are a large number of dishes. There's a few images of them here. We have Loki's cheesy balls. That was actually done as an episode here on Heathen Hearth. I'll put a link to that one. We have the Ashlad breads that Nicole is pointing to here being served. There's a wonderful full plate. We have 2 sauces on the table in those bottles with Marianne, my wife, laughing uproariously at the table. We have also an image of the wonderful pate that I made, and I had planned it so well that the pate would be under a nice gelatin layer, and in the gelatin would be little sprigs of thyme and juniper berries, so it would look like almost like a frozen lake over a lake bottom. And it was really beautiful when I tested it out. But of course, since it was so hot, the gelatin melted and it would just look soggy. But it still tasted delicious, because how can you go wrong with wild game and liver, really? Like, it was delicious. We also, of course, since it was a religious event, left offerings for the gods and ancestors. We have a few here, bowls put out at the high seat, but we also have the altar at the Horg, and that is the holy site at Raven's Knoll, where the old gods of the Norse gods, are honored. And it is a pile of stones, and you can see there all of the offerings, and those offerings are made of not the cooked ingredients, but of all the raw ingredients, as well as other offerings that people make. There's the display also too of the hide and the skulls of each of the sacrificial goats from this year that we ate and consumed, and they are displayed there at the side of the gods so that they can be with them. The Kaleidoscope Gathering this year was themed Cosmos. It was a lot of fun. There is a chip truck there that provides food to the people who are there at the gathering. Now, the Kaleidoscope Gathering, if you're not familiar, is Canada's largest pagan gathering. That's for people who practice neo-pagan religions or similar. And this year, though, there was a fire ban. So the big giant bonfire that we usually have every night, where there's a drumming circle and chanting and dancing, that was not available. So instead, what I built with a lot of other friends was a UFO. And there's an image of it right there. The Jägermeisters, who run the YAG, which is what the chip truck is called, it stands for Ye Old Grub. They actually produce things that are pretty standard Canadian chip truck foods, like poutine and things like that. But this year, and every year, we create special theme recipes. So you may have seen some of these from Instagram. What I suggest is you go to the Instagram feed to see what exactly they are. But we had everything from Pangalactic Garglebusters, Romulan Ale. We did some very creative things with deep frying rice products. We had cosmic salad that was made from purple cabbage. We had UFO landing, which was a burger patty put sideways into a bunch of fries. We had all sorts of really awesome, fun stuff. Oh, and of course, we can't forget the Pickle Rick. We did sell Pickle Ricks. So, as I mentioned, my friend Gypsy Birch, he unfortunately, we lost him to depression this year, and he was much too young to go. We loved him very much. One of the things that I did with a few friends, you can see me with my buddy Rick here, and Obsidian took this picture. We went out canoeing on the Bonnechere River, and this is something Gypsy and I had done. It's something Gypsy actually had done since he was a teenager. He'd canoed on this very same river, and we picked bog myrtle. Bog myrtle is one of the ingredients that was used in the gruit, which is the collection of herbs that was used before hops became used in beers, I should say ales, in Northern Europe. And we made I made an ale out of this. And this ale was specifically made for Gypsy's memorial, for his memorial funeral, and for something that in Asatru we call a memory ale. And a memory ale is where you provide the memory toasts for the deceased. I really like this tradition because it is our name and our impact and the memories of us that live on. And all we can do is hope to recreate the memories of others in our own lives to help keep them immortal. And in some way, we hope that the reverberations of our own lives go on forward in the web of time as well. There was a tradition quite often that in the past in Scandinavia where ale was brewed specifically for events or time periods of the year. So there would be different recipes for different time periods and different social occasions, as there would be different recipes in regions and different recipes in households. If I ever do a brewing recipe, I can get more into the detail of some of these more ancient traditions.
All of these images come from my Instagram account as well. They're all original creations by myself, but they're not ones associated with any special episode. They're just things that I make at home. Now, I only take pictures of things that are sort of not standard fare, like everyday stuff. Try to be posting things that conform to one of the themes of the channel, like decolonize your diet or some interesting mashup. Just trying to post something about something that's interesting. So here we have skyr mixed with frozen berries to almost make an ice cream on top of grain. I have a rare dish made by my mother, rhubarbegrøt, which is a rhubarb compote. I made the grain, put the skyr on it though. I made my own berbere spice blend from scratch. That's an Ethiopian spice blend, and I cooked up a really interesting meat. It's called doro wat. A wat is almost like an Ethiopian style curry. I made something that was really cool, which was almost like a falafel, but I made it out of meat and sesame seeds. It was delicious. I made a high protein shrimp salad in the Scandinavian tradition. Usually they're made with mayo, but I made mine with skyr, and did some stuff inspired by Turkish cuisine as well, and just sort of nice grilled stuff with really colorful vegetables that are healthy. I really like to have really dense and strong flavors. I like leafy greens a lot. One of the things that I am doing with my Nordic Way diet I've talked about is to try to have whole grains and less modern wheat varieties. I've got here a nice rye bread and a gluten-free cracker. What I found though, it's not that I'm not at all sensitive to gluten. I can eat seitan, for instance, just as well as I can eat other products. The problem I seem to have is with sort of modern wheat varieties. And one of the things that I've been reading about is how modern wheat is produced, especially in North America. And one of the things that they do is they use what's called a desiccant to dry out the crop before it's harvested so that it all comes ripe-ish at around the same time. So they basically kill the crop. And what they do is the way they do this is by putting tons and tons of Roundup on it, which is a herbicide. And so they put enough herbicide on it to actually kill the crop. The problem is that essentially what you've got is your grain supply is doused in poison. And some of that must stay in the food supply. Some people who seem to think that they experience gluten sensitivity since they're eating things that include grains that have gluten may not actually be sensitive to the grain itself. They may be sensitive to the way that it's processed and some of the chemicals that are still residing with that original foodstuff. And it gets into the food supply and later products as well. I have eggs there. That's really a go-to kind of dish. Those eggs are mixed with a lot of curry spices, actually even curry leaves, which are a South Indian spice. And hey, in fact, my parents are in India right now. If you're watching, hello, mom and dad, love you. They're touring around northern India and actually going to the northeast. It should be really interesting to see their pictures. I grew up traveling. My parents are traveling now when they're retired, and I'm also from a very multicultural city, which is Ottawa. And what happens is that these food experiences of your early life, of your travel, they all become taste memories that you want to reproduce. And that's one of the reasons I have such a multicultural sort of palate and why this channel is the way it is. I also like to try new things. I'm quite adventurous. As you can see there's a drink there that was an experiment using cricket powder and green tea and chocolate. I do not recommend cricket powder in a smoothie just because it tastes like a very earthy shrimp, and you would not be putting shrimp powder in a fruit smoothie. I'm going to find another way to eat my cricket powder. If you're a fan of the show, you will have noticed that I like highly flavored things. And I'm really into protein-rich foods, which is part of the Nordic Way Diet. I also really like crunchy things and sauces. This may seem contradictory, but I like those contrasts a lot. Here you see a few of those instances. I've got a salmon salad. I have a lot of curry type dishes. I have a really messy looking sandwich. I have an open face sandwich. The open face tradition is really a Danish tradition. And that means you only have one piece of bread. You don't have bread on either side of your sandwich. And I actually make grilled cheese sometimes open face. So that means that the cheese gets really crunchy and crispy, but your sandwich looks like a mess. It tastes amazing though. I have a picture there of a cracker with some interesting looking things on it. They may look like pickles, but those other pieces are not pate. They're actually cod roe. And friends of mine went to Portugal and they got some gourmet pickled fish. And so far I've had the cod roe. It was incredible. And just to end off all the food pictures that I'm showing you, there is a cup of coffee there on a rug. This picture's in there for all of you achievers. You know who you are. And a rug really brings the room together, but it also really ties a video together. Love to hear from you on social media, or even better, I'd love to hear and see you sharing my channel with your friends and families on social media. I found that on Facebook, I'm not really getting a lot of engagement on my Facebook page. So I was wondering from people, do you think I should sort of drop using that? Maybe create a Facebook group instead where people can chat a little bit more easily? I also have a Twitter feed, but I'm going to shut that down because I have like no engagement on that forum at all. And Instagram, I use Instagram quite a bit, and people seem to be engaging with my channel on Instagram. Instagram is a great place to look at food shots, and I find myself scrolling through there for ideas and just seeing what other people have made too. But of course, the central reason for this whole project of Heathen Hearth is the YouTube channel. I love the DIY-ness of YouTube. It's like the ultimate cable access show, I think that's really cool. I love the creative process people go through. I love seeing how they evolve in their skills in video making, but also in their ability to teach what they're passionate about. And I want to do the same thing. I produce content I think people would like to watch. And why do I think they'd like to watch it? Because this is the stuff I like to watch. This is the stuff I like to do. So I just want to share it with everybody. Last but not least, here's a video that YouTube thinks you should watch, and here is a video of the Nordic Way Diet if you haven't seen it yet. So, everybody, until next time, may everyone at your hearth be hale and hearty.